humanity pretended to go extinct and rebuilt civilization, and it was broadcast live. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126. The whole network is boiling. Great country craftsman. Lu Bang is alive. Incredible, incredible. This young Chinese man is a genius. Because of what he did. It can no longer be described as a skilled craftsman. For the original point to be able to see such a miraculous masterpiece in my lifetime. Witness the slaying mystery in the wooden cow and the horse. Even if you die on the spot, you can close your eyes in peace. Right now, this national treasure level structure master from Donggying, the god of craftsmen in the eyes of Donggying people. I have been deeply impressed by the wooden cows and horses made by Jiang Kui, until the host reminds you. This little old man just came back to his senses, but even so. The surging inside is still intensifying. Mr. Mamoto, is there any mystery about this wooden cart? I see that everyone has been discussing it. Can you tell us about it? The real voice was trembling. No matter how hard you try, it won't help. After a while. Only then did he utter a deep Donggying language from his throat, like a warm-blooded elder. This is an ancient masterpiece from the ancient East. It is the period of the Three Kingdoms. Mamoto Ryota said a lot. Even if you don't understand Eastern language. But through the subtitles below the live room. Many crooked nuts have a certain understanding of Mu-N-I-U-L-I-U-M-A. At the same time. I also deeply know the great significance of this craftsmanship to the relevant academic circles. My god. My god. That's right. Wooden cows and horses. It is estimated that only Chinese people can make such a heaven-defying tool. Brother, China is really too strong. He is my idol. I have to say, whether you recognize it or not, I think China is the strongest nation on earth. Besides them, please tell me, who else can come up with such a thing? This is really amazing. At the same time, except for the 2 live broadcast rooms, the China studio is also boiling again. The 3 experts jumped straight from their chairs with excitement. The sword pointed to the big screen behind him. It's unbelievable. Just for a moment. Past cognition. It has completely collapsed. Newly joined ancient architect Kan Wenli. Wooden cows and horses are right. That's right. That's right. Resident expert Xiaoping. It's really exciting. I can't believe it until now. He actually copied this amazing work perfectly. This is a big discovery. This is definitely a big discovery. 35 Ming Zhuai, engineer of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. I don't know what to say, but this wooden cow and horse really brought us too many surprises. Incredible young man. In addition to experts in these related fields. The internet is also booming. A bigger hot search is overwhelming. Once again topped the hot search list. Number 1. The strongest national reality show shocked the world by revealing the ancient ingenious masterpieces of wooden cows and horses. Immediately after, the People's Daily even published an article by name on its official Weibo on the spot. Great country craftsman, Lu Bang is alive. This is the glory of China. Below the hot searches, many professionals have commented. My lord Kui is 2TM leather. Lin Zhao, Nanshan carpenter, pays a visit to the ancestor. Tu Zhengping, a craftsman in Hebei province, pays a visit to the ancestors. Wu Xiao of Bijiang, meet your ancestors, reshaping China's masterpiece. The style of the gentleman, be a model for my generation. Like and like. Give me a hard like. The foreigners in the global live broadcast room are all dumbfounded. Lord Kui is really awesome. I will come up and ask who else. Too long face. Strong. After the heat comes up. The Chinese delegation in charge of everything about the show. Immediately report the matter to the superior. Only a few hours. The relevant departments have protected the copyright of this patent. And obtained copyright certification in the relevant member states. Here. Desert Island. Misty Rain. Shocks to the outside world. Jiang Kui knew nothing about it. Chapter 127. Casting masonry tools. Different opinions. Judgments from geologists. At this time point Pacific Sky point like a touch of blue silk point disappearing point light in the camp point also getting darker point a busy day point it was about to pass silently point cold monsoon with drizzle point let the island return to tranquility again point there is only firewood for the kiln and the shed point still crackling point beside the kiln. Jiang Kui ate roasted meat and tapioca point while waiting patiently for the kiln to heat up point look at how eager he is it doesn't seem like the toil is over at all point it means to go back to rest point but what is brewing in your heart big white shout out. Jiang Kui tuck a piece of sizzling bear meat from a bamboo skewer point share it with howl eat. Bear meat in one bite point Dabe howled excitedly point look point I enjoyed it very much point a howl point it seems to be full of praise for the taste of bear meat point it's really interesting to say point if not Jiang Kui point this little guy may never taste what bear meat is like for the rest of his life point the sky is over. Wolves eat bear meat. Pay attention. Maybe this is the legendary thigh hug. Dabe is so lucky. It's cool to follow Master Kui, and you can eat and drink spicy food every day. It's in the north. I found that I'm not as good as a wolf. To be honest, I envied Abe. The bonfire is splendid point peaceful and peaceful point on a stone stove point except for the fragrant bear meat point there are also a few unusually fresh 733 sea fish that were just salvaged today point a time point in the camp point the smell of grilled meat is everywhere point at this time point it is early morning in the country point but the popularity in the live room point but not only did not fall back point instead it keeps climbing. The barrage is one after another it has completely covered the live screen point. If not blocked point can't see Jiang Kui's video at all. But point the audience is envious of Dabe point more point still discussing what exactly is Jiang Kui's next plan. Guess what the hell is Master Kui doing with so much concrete? Ghost knows. But this grilled fish is really good. It makes me drool. First, making tools, and then making wooden cows and horses. This must be a big project, since the island has ushered in the flood season point these 2 days. Jiang Kui has been busy all the time point never stopped point available from start to finish point the audience didn't make up their minds either. Build tools make wooden cows and horses now they have made hundreds of kilograms of concrete by the sea. Is this to fortify the camp or to protect against floods rebuild a safer shelter? Everyone does not know point. But one thing is for sure point this is definitely a big project. Otherwise point how can you use hundreds of pounds of concrete? A simple dinner the curtain falls point at this time point temperature in the kiln point just reached the peak point C. Jiang Kui took all the copper and tin mines in the camp point all fell in point prepare to refine them point make some handy bricklayer tools. Because there is no dedicated tool point professional construction work cannot be done at all point tools don't need to be complicated point just do the basics anvil, shovel, hammer putty knives, bricklaying knives, troweling knives ash spoons, clay tablets, iron clay tablets point in point the most critical point it's a peach shaped trowel point the trowel is the main application tool. Chapter 128 Desert Island Hardware Store. Become an infrastructure madman. Tips for Ocarina of Strange Objects. That's right, this is definitely a great project, whether it is for Jiang Kui himself point, or for the current stage of island civilization, because wherever and whenever, whether it is doomsday or not point rivers are the starting point for civilization. To reach its peak point it is very important for the development of human society point transportation point irrigated farmland point even water storage to generate electricity. They are all inextricably linked to it. If you use it, the infinite energy contained in it is very amazing. As long as the adjustable weir succeeds not only will the entire island be protected from torrents it can even bring out infinite vitality. Maybe in the eyes of outsiders point an insignificant river it doesn't seem to bring anything point. But actually point this may really be the beginning of a new phase in rebuilding civilization point more than just preventing floods. From the beginning, Jiang Kui realized something point an island is that big point every inch of it point every drop of water point even every tree point it's all about yourself. If you don't work hard point how can I be the master of it myself? How to realize the philosophical proposition of man will conquer nature into the night point the live broadcast room was still crowded point. But Jiang Kui who entered the dreamland point, but very quiet point tired of a day point let him sleep soundly, had a wild dream point and a dream point one after Another. The magnificent civilization blueprints kept flashing in his mind. He dreamed that he owned a hydroelectric power station. There is a light bulb with offshore oil drilling with a giant ship that can cross the ocean and return to the hometown of China. With guns, with cannons. There is a magic weapon that can make human civilization stand up again in the ancient East after tomorrow. The night passed. In a blink of an eye. The next day. It's not yet 5 in the morning. There are billions of viewers in the live broadcast room. In the barrage. It's even hotter. Morning. Lord Kui. Is Leo Kui still awake? Stay up late to watch Lord Kui every day. Haha. Look at what Dabe is doing. When the audience is talking. Dabe woke up first. Then all of a sudden he jumped onto the bed. Stretched out a long head. Facing Jiang Kui's face. He began to frantically output. Just for a while. Let him open his hazy sleepy eyes. Oh, Mon. How did you sleep last night? Dabe groaned twice. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129. Concrete has completed a qualitative leap. Super Cement is released. Thought here. Jiang Kui immediately ordered Dabe to be on guard. Then open the brake mechanism of the wooden cow and the horse. Park it under a tree. Get ready to go and find out. But taking into account the stability of the collapsed soil layer, it's not okay to jump off like that. In case of another collapse in the middle. That wouldn't be fun. So necessary security measures cannot be less in order to prevent trouble in the future. Jiang Kui took out a thick hemp rope from the warehouse. One end is tied to a stout arbor, on the other end is a chain buckle. Tied to his waist. Chain buckle is a kind of knot that is more commonly used. The design is very clever, as long as it is not cut off by external force. Even the rope endures an irresistible force. The buttons won't come off either. Instead, it gets tighter. Quite safe. With it. Even if there is another collapse below. Just dig up in the direction of the rope. You must be able to escape. Because many times being buried in the ground is not scary. The most terrifying thing is after the burial. 733 people lose their sense of direction. Can't tell where it is at all. Where is the next point? Even if the necessary discrimination can be made by gravity. It is not easy to find an exit point. So safety ropes are important. Soon. Fasten the safety rope. Jiang Kui turned around. Control the lowering speed of the rope with both hands one side along the landslide. Keep going down. The collapse is at least 5 meters deep. The air inside is very humid. There is a lot of water vapor. Roots of various trees. Crisscross in between. Mess up. Compress the available space to the extreme. Very depressing. Resist the extreme lack of space. Jiang Kui was careful all the way. 5 minutes passed. Only step by step came to the bottom of the landslide. After arriving at the place, Jiang Kui looked around. But after looking around. But nothing special was found. Thinking. He came aimlessly to the fractured rock formation. I patted it with my hand. Moment. The frosted texture of falling dust and off-white rock formations finally let him find out. This is limestone. Or thought flashed by. A sudden light flashed in my mind. See? Jiang Kui hurriedly leaned over. Pick up a piece of grey-white gravel with a fairly regular shape from the ground. It's about the size of a palm. A macrite structure, a block structure. If he guessed right. This should be typical granulated limestone. Formation of granular limestone. Most of them are masterpieces of water transport and sedimentation. Widely distributed. But mainly formed in shallow sea environment. Different from biological skeleton limestone. That is, calcium carbonate, such as shell bones. This limestone is the key to firing quicklime and making the material hydraulic. At the moment, ancient Roman concrete by Jiang Kui. It has no hydraulic properties. In other words, when it hits water it does not harden naturally like cement. This effect can only be achieved by firing, heating, etc. This will be a big hassle for waterside operations. But with this kind of limestone. There is no need to worry about such issues. Just follow the ratio given by the system. In a certain proportion. Add enough quicklime to the concrete. The hydraulic hardness of ancient Roman concrete can be achieved. Make it sturdy and easy to style. Become an enhanced version of super concrete. If so, even modern cement. Compare with it. Also brother-in-law. See Jiang Kui makes another discovery. The viewers who are watching the live broadcast send out a barrage one after another. What did Master Kui find again? Chapter 130. This person can not only strike iron, but also play water conservancy. In the live room. Watching Jiang Kui put all his homework and tools big and small. Shipped to the river the silent barrage. Immediately there are many question marks. Huh? Isn't it building a house? What's the situation? Yeah. I'm stunned. What is Master Kui doing? Riverview Villa. Got TM Riverview Villa. For someone like you, my backhand is a report. What do you think? You can't build a house here when people are talking. Jiang Kui has brought dab. A clearing was found on the bank of the river. Put away the wooden cow and the horse. He looked up. Observe the basic conditions of the river. At this time. After several days of precipitation. The water quality of the river has been significantly improved, but due to the continuous surge of groundwater upstream, sediment in the river, there are still many. But this is not the most critical. The key is it's only been down for a few days. The river channel seems to be widened by 19 more. If you don't build an embankment. Guess it won't be long. The river will overflow into the forest. Cool thinking. Jiang Kui side. Then take out the pen and paper as soon as possible. All the way along the river. Upstream. The first geological survey began. Preparing for the construction of the embankment. Construction of embankments not an easy task, because it is the basis for building an adjustable weir in the river water. After all, there are no embankments, the river will not be obedient. And the so-called embankment. In fact, it is to use bricks and concrete to transform the river, let the water flow in the prescribed direction. In order to reduce or avoid the encroachment of the river on the camp, the embankment is to prevent flooding downstream of the river. Simpler form of hydraulic engineering. The flood control effect is very significant. The strategy of building embankments to restrain water, it has long been used in the history of flood control practice. To this day. The construction of river embankments on both sides of the downstream river is one of the most common flood control measures. Compared to large reservoirs, although the embankment does not have much flood control capacity. However, its engineering cost and technical requirements are relatively low. But it is Jiang Kui's first choice right now, especially in islands whose natural conditions are not suitable for building reservoirs relying on riverbanks for flood protection. Even more wise. Because usually. The river channels are naturally formed by the impact of river water over time. Flow from high to low. There are no rules. Without any human intervention. The channel will naturally become wider and wider. Therefore, we want to avoid flood disasters. Govern the river. Building embankments is a must. Only adjustable weirs. There is no specification for riverbanks. It doesn't work at all for flood control, especially the embankments located in the river transition zone. It's the top priority of the project. Soon. All the way upstream. By observing and recording. Condition of the entire downstream, Jiang Kui basically figured it out. The weak points of the river near the bank and the loose soil are also marked on the grass paper. Until confirmed. Just turned back. After arriving at the place, Jiang Kui found a stone. Press the design drawing on the cargo compartment cover. Chapter 131. Thousands of years later. Looking at Kui's water conservancy project, archaeologists fell into contemplation. Usually. Modern river embankments are made of concrete. It is also built with earthen fortresses. It is also paved with coarse sand cement. These embankment methods either way. Each has advantages. It can also play a certain role in flood control, but among them. The most significant effect. Also the most once and for all. Or the concrete pouring method used by Jiang Kui. Ancient Roman concrete with lots of quicklime. Used to build such flood resistant fortifications. Just don't be too forceful. Not to mention a few years, just thousands of years. Can't be destroyed. The sea walls of ancient Rome are the best example. Until now. They all stand still. Soon. Holding a shovel. Digging back and forth for less than an hour. The first foundation. Finally done. The total length is 50 meters up and down. Didn't count carefully. But not too much. The embankment is parallel to the natural channel. At a glance. Bottom wide and top narrow point. The reason for this is because the bottom of the foundation is under pressure from the river water. Much larger than the upper one. Build the embankment wide at the bottom and narrow at the top. It is to adapt to changes in river water pressure. And it also saves material. Jiang Kui does this. Both are scientific requirements. There are also material considerations. If you don't do that. Such a big project. That can be busy. Immediately after dig the foundation. After determining the water baseline. After the axis positioning. And other data. Jiang Kui immediately opened the warehouse. Get mixed super cement. Start filling in. Along the way. Don't stop until the cement runs over the foundation. Subsequently. Fill the cement. He swung the shovel again. Dig up the dirt from the chasm. All delivered to the slope above the embankment foundation. And compact it. Don't underestimate this detail. If not compacted. The soil layer will become too loose. By the time. The cement attached to it will not be solid. Either it's easy to burst. So no matter what method is used. Must be compacted. Jiang Kui's approach is relatively simple and rude. Directly put the big log used for making glass. Resist it. Placed on the slope. Don't say it. The size is quite appropriate. Unbiased is just right. Then. He called for Dabe to push the log with him. Over and over again. I went back and forth on the slope 4 or 5 times. Don't stop until you are sure the soil is fully compacted. At this time. The embankment has already taken shape. Wait, just start with the foundation. Follow the slope all the way up. Covered with concrete. Smooth with a trowel. Then the bricks that look like tiles are fired in situ. It is built piece by piece on the slope. Only half of the bricks will do. Directly look for some small rocks in the lower half. Like paving a cobblestone road. Spread it tightly on the wet cement and you're done. Save time and energy. By the time. Wait until the cement hardens. Even a section of the embankment has been repaired. Chapter 132. Imaginative Design. Leo Kui, you are really talented. On the sloping embankment. Large and small pebbles are scattered. The Roman bricks above are arranged in an orderly manner. It looks sturdy and yet aesthetically pleasing. Next. Just follow the process. Continue along the coast all the way up. Avoid rocks and ravines. Look for shores with relatively loose soil layers. Build embankments in turn. To the upper reaches of the river. As such. That is, it can achieve the purpose of bundling the river with the embankment by the time. Then cooperate with the adjustable weir in the upstream, middle and downstream. Even if the river continues to soar, even flash floods detonated. It will not develop into a flood. Because the embankment can greatly avoid flooding. Let the raging river submit obediently to its own fortifications. But again. This is definitely a big project. Be prepared to fight for a long time. By estimation, Jiang Kui's current known rivers in the island. At least dozens of kilometers. Even if the rocks where the river passes through and the turning zone where the embankment cannot be repaired are removed. The entire length of the downstream embankment. There must be 10 kilometers. If you add the middle and upper reaches, the number may be much more than that. But what is the situation in the middle and upper reaches now? Jiang Kui doesn't know yet. Because from landing on the island to now. He had not been to the north shore of the island either. Just know that there is a mountain there. The terrain is high. As for what's in the mountains, where is the source of river water, he didn't know anything about it. Based on 737, just take this opportunity. You can go and explore. Hope you can rely on Ocarina of Strange Things can be on the unexplored North Shore. Found some useful supplies. Soon. Get busy. It was already past noon. Construction of the first section of the embankment. It's basically over here. Immediately after, Jiang Kui took some more concrete with the trowel and bricklayer. Come to the top of the embankment. A curb was simply covered with Roman brick. Make it more organized. It also looks more beautiful. Cool. The last brick is laid. Jiang Kui was relieved. Sitting directly on the embankment. Admiring his masterpiece. At the moment. Turbulent water flow. It has not completely overrun the original riverbank soil. It is impossible to intuitively feel the flood control ability of the riverbank. But as long as the riverbed continues to be raised. Even if the water level rises another inch. The importance of embankment. It will be obvious. The principle of the embankment built by Jiang Kui almost perfectly replicates the construction of the embankment on the middle line of China South to North Water Diversion Project. There is no difference. The only BJFH difference. There is a difference in the amount of work between the two. If the South to North Water Diversion is the official version. That little project. Only a youth version. But Chapter 133. The river bank is completed. The vibration of the Water Conservancy field. The first adjustable weir. An unremarkable stretch of river bank. It turned out to be a high-end replica of a national project. WTF. After listening to Xiang Zhenking's explanation. What the audience did to Jiang Kui. Even more amazing. It turned out that this was not what he thought at all. It's backed by science. At the same time. Flood control capability of river embankments. Everyone is more convinced, even without witnessing it. I also know how extraordinary it is. Even some foreign audiences great for that too. To put it bluntly, China Challenger is an infrastructure genius. Speak up. This is the real infrastructure. Even the tools are made by themselves. Simply don't too awesome. Sitting on the shore for a while. Jiang Kui called Dabe immediately. Pushing the wooden cow and the horse back to the camp. Lots of stuff in the warehouse. Firewood, charcoal, crucibles, alloyed metal blocks, and that's more than enough food. This time. Because of the need to build embankments and dams. As the project progresses I can hardly go back to sleep. Because camping on the spot can save a lot of time. Avoid the hassle of going back and forth. So this time back to camp. Jiang Kui brought enough supplies. Get ready to go. Big. Afternoon. After the camp returned to the shore. Jiang Kui only rested for a moment. A new round of construction has begun. The location of the first section of the embankment. Roughly northwest of the camp. So the next project plan. It is based on this all the way to the south. To repair the embankment. Until the river water is secured. Until there is no threat to the camp. The entire length of the downstream dike. Probably stretches for a few kilometers. Long before construction. Jiang Kui has already set the position of the first adjustable weir downstream. It was a turning belt of river water that took a sharp turn. A bend that turned southwest. Its location is roughly parallel to the camp. The reason why the adjustable weir is set here. There are two reasons. The first is that it happens to be in the turning belt of the river. The dike repair can basically ensure that the water supply will intrude on the camp and the surrounding environment. Second. Build a weir here. If there is a chance later it is absolutely possible to open up an artificial river channel for this. Build a ditch. Introduce river water to camp. Then dig out the pond. Achieve the purpose of water storage. There is a water source for the pond. The Great Plains in front of the camp will be directly killed. Greatly facilitates future farmland irrigation. At the moment. Although Jiang Kui only has a small vegetable garden. There is simply no need for an overly complicated irrigation system. But if you do find edible crop seeds on the island. Expanded farmland. A cistern is definitely not enough. So planning ahead is necessary, and the downstream adjustable weir it is for this ultimate goal. Then. Leaving the prefect of Shu capital. Du Jiang'an treasure bottle mouth excavated. Conceived with Jiang Kui. There is a wonderful difference. The role of the bottle mouth. Except for sand removal. The most important thing is to continuously introduce the water of the Minjiang River into the Shudu Plain. It is convenient for the people of Shudu to irrigate their farmland. Follow this line of thinking. The following few days, Jiang Kui made it at sunrise. Rest at sunset, fire bricks and mud to build embankments during the day. Camp on the river bank at night. If you don't have any materials, you will push the wooden cows and horses to the beach to collect them. A lot of manpower, material and financial resources were wasted. Finally finished building the downstream embankment. Embankments on both sides. The total length is 7 or 8 kilometers. Meandering. Neat and tidy. Very disciplined. Pieces of grey bricks. Chapter 134. Floods and droughts come from people, and Cheyenne Fu reappears. The river is fast. When driving into the mouth of the bottle. Sediment deposited deep under the riverbed. Naturally. Just under the force of gravity and impact. Get restless. Follow the vortex. Go downstream. The sand removal effect is very significant. The first adjustable weir, as the final checkpoint of the entire project. Except for water storage. There is an even more important role. That is clearing up. The sediment deposited in the river can be remobilized. Lower the riverbed. Relieve dam pressure. When building the weir wall, Jiang Kui deliberately increased the curvature. Here's why. Through the ages all hydraulic works at the end of the day. It is nothing more than controlling water flow and controlling river sand. Small to adjustable weir as big as to Jiang'an. Even the 7373 Heroes project. Its ultimate purpose is this. The key to the success and failure of water conservancy projects it all depends on whether the above 2 points can be better completed. China's famous water conservancy projects. A considerable part of the failure is due to improper handling of the sediment problem. The project was ultimately destroyed. Therefore, when storing water, the problem of sand removal should also be taken into account. Otherwise it will not work. Think back then. The drastic 3-door hero project is an example. After building while storing water, a lot of sediment was deposited. A long time. The riverbed is raised. Large tracts of farmland were submerged. The land is rapidly salinized. The eruption of the flood is approaching the ancient capital of Chang'an. To the opposite. Why is Jiang'an so prosperous? The most important reason is that it effectively solves the problem and continue to prosper. So trying to set up weirs to store water. When controlling the river, this must also be taken into consideration. Soon. Over time. Just for a while. The turbulent water flow took away a large amount of sediment accumulated at the mouth of the weir. It's amazing. Less than an hour before and after the river water level here. There has been a significant drop. Change the previous open teeth and claws become more docile. Thus downstream sediment problems basically it's solved. Forget about flash floods. It's a super flood. The danger doesn't spread here either. As long as the weir wall does not fall for a day. The sediment in the turning zone can't make any climate thinking. Jiang Kui wiped the sweat from his forehead. A long lost smile. Throw away the shovel. For the first time, he vented his joy on Dabe. Facing the wolf head is an output. Abruptly took a ferocious wolf. Needed into Hazi. Ow. Ooh. Big. White screams. Into the live room. Chapter 135. Water Conservancy Magic Work. Knowledge is the primary productive force. Inside China studio, Xian Zhenqing said every word. Talk it out. While he was talking. The director immediately took a real photo of Du Jiang'an Bao Pingkao. Sent to the big screen. Aquarius is the last link of Du Jiang'an. It is of great significance to the whole project. With a graphic presentation on the screen. Xian Zhenqing continued, because it plays a role in removing sediment. 35. Although the mouth of the bottle is only a gap in the river, the design is very mysterious. We all know that when the river water enters the bend, under the influence of the longitudinal flow velocity, a bend circulation will be generated, forming a spiral flow. When the river flows downstream, the clearer surface river water flows to the concave bank of the river channel, and the turbid bottom layer flows to the convex bank of the river channel. The mouth of the bottle is facing the surface flow. Under the action of the spiral flow of the river, the bottom flow with the sediment entrained will suddenly turn over from the weir wall to the outer river, and then throw it onto the flying sand weir. 39. You can take a closer look. Does the weir wall built by Jiang Kui fit this perfectly? Although there is no flying sand weir, all the sediment deposited on the river bottom was thrown to the lower reaches of 19, which relieved the pressure on the riverbed at once. After listening to Xian Zhenqing's explanation. In conjunction with the graphic presentation on the big screen. The audience in the live room was instantly enlightened. F***K. It seems to be the case. Ki beef batch. Du Jiang'an was built, can you believe it, as expected of the wisdom that has been passed down for more than 2000 years. This trick is really amazing. Is this the centrifugal force of modern physics? To say that there is no centrifugal force at all is nonsense. In fact it is gravity. Master Kui is so smart. I can't think of this trick, even if you kill me. The teacher is honest with me. Knowledge is the primary productive force. Soon. With the help of many netizens, Jiang Kui's Water Conservancy magic work. Once again sent to the mega hot search. It replicates the feat of Du Jiangguan. Not only let the Chinese local audience sigh. Let people all over the world see the wisdom of China from more than 2000 years ago. So ever the universities have ushered in a new wave of research topics. And then on YouTube, the world's most famous video site. The word Du Jiangguan also immediately became a hot search term, attracted many video owners to follow suit. Violently rubbed a wave of traffic. No need for careful editing at all. Even if there is an irrelevant video. As long as you use the hot words of Du Jiangguan and honestly become a headline party, you can easily get countless likes. Even more outrageous, just because of this, the number of tourists in Du Jiangguan scenic spot surged instantly that day. At one point, it reached the highest level of the year. The weir wall was built. The next process is to build the rear cistern. The reservoir lies on a weir wall. There is a culvert between the two. The purpose is to facilitate the entry of water. But the culvert is not in a hurry. It's too late to wait until the reservoir is built. The construction of a cistern is no different from a rainwater collection tower. Draw the foundation. Put in cement first. Then use the fired Roman bricks that meet the specifications. Lay a layer of cement. Cover with a layer of bricks. Continue to cover up according to the foundation. The process is not difficult. It is nothing more than to use the ink fountain to determine the baseline. Be decisive when it comes to troweling. Just don't cover it up. It's over when the cover is crooked. Wait until all sides are covered. Cover again with cement. Basically even live, because the new cement does not need to be fired. Wait for it to dry before putting it into use. Soon. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136. Follow-up of the project, Water Circulation System. The construction of Archimedes' crane. Into the night, riverside, inside a makeshift camp. By a beeswax oil lamp. The faint light emitted. Jiang Kui is sitting by the campfire. Leaning on a rock under a big tree. Soon the follow-up project of the first adjustable weir was designed on the grass paper. There are 7 steps in total. First, build a crane. Second, create a wooden gate. Third, an artificial river was built with cement that led directly to the plain in front of the camp. Fourth, dig a pond on the edge of the plain to store water, and if possible, it can also be used to breed some freshwater fish. Fifth, use pipes such as concrete canals and bamboo pipes to introduce river water into the pond. Sixth, build a water wheel to divert part of the river water that flows down to the reservoir of the camp. Seventh, a canal is dug under the reservoir, and the domestic wastewater is then returned to the river at such point. Once the project is successful. Not only can the farmland be irrigated freely. It is also more convenient for daily water fetching in the camp. Let yourself have an extremely intelligent water circulation system. The water cycle system is for civilization. It is a very meaningful infrastructure. Not a lot of work can be done without it. Irrigation, drinking water, smelting, building cities, developing technology and much more. BC the ancient Romans built the oldest aqueduct in human history. There are many aqueducts such as the Apia Canal, the Enovitus Canal, and the Margia Canal. It is these canals it makes people's life more convenient. Even in modern society. Canals are also still an essential and important facility in daily life. For Jiang Kui. Use plenty of clean water every day. It is tantamount to the progress of civilization. Unconsciously. It is late at night. The evening breeze is gentle. Mixed with continuous drizzle. Simply designed to follow up engineering details. Drowsiness struck suddenly. Stretched. Jiang Kui blows out the oil lamp. When even got into the shelter. Who fell asleep. In a blink of an eye. The night passed quickly. Day 2. It was barely 4 in the morning. Jiang Kui got up. After a brief cleaning of personal hygiene. He turned on the system immediately. Use survival points in the exchange list. To buy the crafting technology required for subsequent projects, eat whatever you want. Called Abe. Push the cart and came to the forest. Find the wood from which the crane is made. An original Archimedes crane. Not many materials are used. Wood bears the brunt. However, it is different from making a wooden cow and a horse. Cranes require a lot of thick logs. Also, the most important devices on the original crane: winch, connecting pulley, moving pulley, rope pulley, etc. It also requires the use of chains and a lot of metal parts. But anyway. Construction of an Archimedes crane. Not too complicated. There are not many parts in total. Only need to assemble the built square chassis, supporting and lifting wooden frame, pulleys, wheel handle, winch, etc. Can be put into use. The use of the crane is also very simple. Hang heavy objects, push the handle of the reel handle. Put a rope or chain winding onto this vertical axle. Also between the winch and the main crane. There is also a rope. This rope is wrapped around the main wheel on the other side. It constitutes the most basic principle of the transmission system. When the rope on the winch is wound on the big wheel, the small wheel on the axle will wind up the rope on the lifting weight, which is the power source of the jack. Nothing difficult. The only difficulty is that the chassis and lifting frame, as well as the lifting system, require full mortise and tenon assembly. Chapter 137. Give me a fulcrum, I can lift the earth. Almighty craft genius. What is this? What did Master Kui invent again? Good guy. Muscle golden wheel. Haha. Muscle golden wheel is okay. Can you recognize this formation, my darling? It's amazing, and it's a full tenon and mortise structure again. All tenon and tenon structure, winch, huge log chassis, complex support structure. Although it is not yet known what Jiang Kui is going to build. But just look at these fortifications and parts. The audience was vaguely aware of the extraordinariness of it. The live stream continues. The winch is ready. Jiang Kui carefully put it aside. Then I immediately found 3 wooden sticks that met the specifications, ready to use them to build a tenon and tenon structure. 3 sticks. The shape is roughly the same. About a meter long. About 20 centimeters in diameter. Making the handle is simple. Just take one of them as the main arm. Punch out tenons at both ends, then connect with the other 2 sticks. 2 other sticks, one inserted into the winch. One to hold. By the time. Just turn the crank. Wind up the rope on the winch. Naturally, the 740 can easily be used to lift heavy objects. But the crank handle is simple to make. But there is one thing that needs special attention, because the original crane is fully manpower driven. Without any mechanical assistance. So the bearing capacity, construction method, mechanical calculation, etc. of the crank handle must be accurate. If not even if the other parts are perfect the effect will also be unsatisfactory. Serious even engineering accidents such as broken cables and falls will occur. Therefore after handling the arm and other related parts, Jiang Kui is not in a hurry. Instead, it combines the relevant data of the chassis and the lifting support frame. Take out the pen and paper for the 3 moment arms. Necessary mechanical calculations performed. Cranes are lifting machinery. It is a type of material handling machinery. Whether it's a modern crane. Still the original crane. There are many physical principles in it. One of the most well known is the leverage principle. F1L1 equals F2L2. But if you just blindly apply leverage, this is undoubtedly a metaphysical act. A fulcrum can tilt the earth. Also depends on what the fulcrum is, whether the dynamic resistance meets the requirements. It's a labor saving lever. Still laborious leverage. Just use a small stick. Just go to the origin behind the principle. Obviously not. Especially engineering equipment. Exact calculations are not performed. Operational expectations cannot be met at all. Soon. Write and draw. Combine relevant known conditions soon. Chapter 138. Congratulations to Lord Kui, entering the mechanical age. The adjustable weir is completed. Soon. After some calculation tests, make sure there's nothing wrong. Jiang Kui picked up the tool immediately. Start making mortise and tenon on the 3/4 seams. Structure like this the best tenon and mortise connection. It is to adopt the method of single insertion through tenon and tenon reduction. This tenon is often used to connect the overlord tent with the table legs. To enhance the stability and firmness of the table legs, the principle just applies to the lever. arm of the crank handle. The method is simple. Place the two lever arms at a 45-degree angle to the main lever. One end has a hook tenon. Push up. After inserting the tenon hole, push the tenon up with the wedges below. Form a hook. The other end is connected with the bottom surface of the noodles with a pin. Except for the pins, always keep the mouth against the belt. To position the lever arm. As such, the main arm and the two direct force arms can be built closely together. If replaced with ordinary straight tenon, there is no way to achieve this effect. Straight tenon is simple though, but for such a large fortification, the structure is still too simple. With prolonged use, it is very likely that the moment arm will break. Adds a lot of unnecessary trouble. But this kind of mortise and tenon does not in a blink of an eye. A morning passed quickly. With crank handle and winch. Basic hardware for cranes. Basically it's over next. Just cast the pulley and the wire. Install it in a given location. A sophisticated original crane can be put into operation. The production of pulleys and iron cables still using clay mold casting method. But because the specifications have to meet the requirements after the part has cooled. It also needs to be carefully polished. Especially the iron buckle on the iron cable. When pressing the mold. It is necessary to reserve a gap in advance. When they are connected in series, use a hammer and other tools to tighten the fracture on each iron ring. It's not that difficult. But it took a lot of effort. It took nearly 3 hours. The relevant parts were installed on the corresponding position of the crane by Jiang Kui. Follow closely. After all parts are in place. The iron rope is also ready. Take out the triangular ladder. Jiang Kui hung it on the pulley. Then the iron cable extended from the pulley again. Wrapped around the winch in circles. Fasten at last. Phew. It should be fine. After all this was over, Jiang Kui breathed a sigh of relief. Install the crank handle immediately. Randomly found a log of 100 kilograms. Pull the wire on the lower pulley. Secure the log. Then back to the winch. Get off your horse. Shake off your shoulders. Both hands eagerly grasp the handle. Shake it with all your might. Crash every push. The iron rope on the crane made a fine metal collision sound. Soon circle after circle. With the rolling of the cable. A miracle occurs. The log was easily hung up. F***K. I join. Congratulations to Lord Kui, entering the mechanical age. Oops. He pretended to be there again! 66,666. Give me a fulcrum. I can lift the earth. Too awesome. Chapter 139. Tailor-made BGM. Break ground and open the canals. Although the wooden gate is not as strong as reinforced concrete. But the adjustment ability is not bad at all. With it. The water circulation system of the camp will naturally be settled. From now on, you don't have to worry about water sources anymore. You can get clean and clear fresh water anytime, anywhere, used to meet the needs of daily life and production operations. If we say that river management is to deal with natural disasters, a water circulation system established by this, it is the starting point for the island. To become prosperous, definitely a smart move. Busy a few times another day in a new era. The curtain falls, the wooden gate is installed. Although exhausted. But Jiang Kui couldn't wait to see the power of the adjustable weir. Then quickly pick up the shovel. In a ditch. Key 40 near the embankment of the weir wall. A ditch was dug. The under drain leads directly to the pool. Above the mouth of the bottle. Just enough to draw the upper layer of clean water. But because the follow-up project has not been completed. The water inlet should not be repaired to large. Just make sure the water can flow into the pool. Wait until the pond is dug. Finish the water wheel and bamboo pipe separation device. It's not too late to go back and build the perfect inlet. Soon. The ditch was dug. Jiang Kui picked up the trowel again. And some concrete. The culvert was repaired. Wait until tomorrow morning. Once the cement in the canal is shaped, you can break the ground and divert water. That night. One man and one wolf sat in front of a large rock beside the shelter fire on one side. While sharing the extremely delicious charcoal grilled bear meat. Dabe, here it is. Old rules. The first bite is for the stupid dog. Here. Dabe was naturally not polite. He took the bear meat and grinned and ate it. How? Does it taste good? 99. After saying that, Jiang Kui also cut a piece with a knife and stuffed a large piece into his mouth with sea salt and black pepper. After a period of strict adjustment and careful domestication. Compared to before. Dabe also gradually became stronger. Hair has grown a lot. The innocence of the young wolf has faded away. Wild all over. Gradually revealed. Spring brown eyes captivating. It glows faintly at night. More and more like a top hunter. However, for Jiang Kui, it is still so obedient. Don't dare to slack off. It is even said that he is completely used to this unique way of getting along. In a few days, we may have to travel far to the upper reaches of the river. How are you? Are you ready? Oh wow, ha. Ha. Jiang Kui threw it a piece of bear meat. Just smiled. But didn't say anything. Continue to enjoy a rare moment of tranquility. After the meal, he rested for a while leaning on the stone. Then he got into the shelter and went to sleep. The next day. It was just past 4 o'clock Pacific time. There are countless audiences in the China Live broadcast room because the live broadcast has not started yet. On the live screen at this time. Highlights from the past are playing. Drill wood to make fire, scare away beasts, find water sources, hunt in the jungle, fight brown bears. Chapter 140. True South to North Water Diversion Project. The project is over. Set off upstream. Because of planning ahead. When the ground is broken, Jiang Kui deliberately controlled the flow rate and flow of the water, but even so. Also less than an hour the clear river water filled the reservoir full to the brim. Comparable to a small reservoir. Superficially. The closedness of the pool is okay. But what's inside. It is unknown. Thinking. Jiang Kui took off his commoner. A fierce man plunged into the pool. Dived down quickly. Check the condition of the wooden gate. Not bad. Because of the slide. At the same time seal the bottom with cement. Water blocking effect of wooden gates unexpectedly good. Although there is also oozing. But totally within the acceptable range. Quite powerful. Take a look around underwater. Jiang Kui returned to the shore. Follow closely. Back to the crane again. Gently shake the winch twice. Next second, crash with the sluice raised. Water in the pool. Instantly burst out. Whether it is water output or control details, it all met my expectations. K19. Did Kui build a reservoir for himself? Good guy. So it is. True South to North Water Transfer. Capitalized suit. It turns out that the crane is used to control the sluice. Water conservancy power generation. See this scene. Not just the audience in the live room. Xiang Zhenking in a wheelchair at this moment. He also suddenly realized, with a smile on his face. He sighed again and again. Oh, this is a bit interesting. He built an adjustable weir for himself. Hearing what Xian Leo said, the host Len Zio asked, Xian Leo, what do you mean by adjustable weir? Oh, the adjustable weir is a project that can adjust water flow and control water supply and drainage. There are many functions of adjustable weirs, such as creating water drop, hydropower generation, establishing water circulation system, facilitating irrigation of farmland, etc. The so-called adjustable weir can actually be understood as the adjustable weir gate of the reservoir, making full use of the river water resources to meet the needs of development. Hydroelectric power. Xiang Zhenking's remarks all of a sudden. There are more live broadcasts. Master Kui is here too. I go. Power generation. Isn't this F***ck the rhythm of taking off? Do you really not consider ending the live broadcast of the program team? If it goes on like this, Master Kui estimates that it will not take long for a new civilization to be established. I'm KUINIU batch. No blows, no blacks. I feel that in my lifetime I will be able to see Lord Kui build an aircraft carrier with his bare hands. Eagle Source audience, water conservancy power generation. Chinese people really have it. You dare to think about it. My god. Eastwin audience, Sigoi. This is definitely the craziest Earthman I have ever seen in my life. Korean audience, this guy. So it is. Desert Island. The audience was shocked. The first water diversion of the adjustable weir has come to an end successfully. At the same time, it is also for the next cycle of fortifications laid a solid foundation. Construction of the first adjustable weir at this point. We have basically entered the beginning and end stages. Next point, just on the outside wall of the cistern. Point, dig an artificial river. Introduce river water. To camp. Point, dig out the pond. Point, use bamboo pipes and canals. To transmit fortifications, let the river flow in continuously. Point, part of it is used to facilitate future irrigation. Point, part of it is diverted to the camp to meet the daily production and life. Point, here. Point, a complete water circulation system. Point, it's almost done. Chapter 141. Detour. Impossible. Climbing techniques of the Gumandras. About the North Shore, Jiang Kui knows very little since landing on the island to the present point, except knowing that there is a mountain there. Point, outside the higher terrain. Point, others don't know at all. Point, even say. Point, the source of the river on which he has always lived. Point, where did it come from? Point, he doesn't even know the details. But one thing is certain. Point, that is no matter what. Point, freshwater source for all natural islands in the world. Point, in fact, it all comes from groundwater. It's just that there are differences in the form of presentation. Point, such as groundwater. Some are springs, some are dark rivers. As for the source of fresh water on the island. Point, actually look into the reason. Point, most of it comes from natural rainfall absorbed by the soil. Point, that's why plants can be seen all over the island. Point, because any land plant depends on fresh water. According to the Jeben-Herzberg model. Point, rainfall can be absorbed by the underground aquifers of any tropical island. The island of Jiang Kui is no exception. Point, rainfall in the South Pacific. Point, the groundwater reserves on the island are very amazing. So. Point, no need to worry about running out of water at all. Point, rivers will dry up. Point, unless the real world is destroyed. Point, as long as the earth is there. Point, as long as the monsoon comes. Luckily there is no flood. Point, drought is impossible. Point, this is determined by the climate. Point, with the above prerequisites the island absorbs fresh water after a long period of precipitation. Point, naturally, this fresh water is stored for a long time at the bottom. Point, because fresh water is less dense than seawater, so fresh water can float on top of seawater and squeeze the saline layer down. Point, can be kept away from the land surface. Point, of course. Point, the reason why the two can be separated. Point, except for the density difference. Point, also the presence of islands indirectly prevents the mixing of fresh and salt water by the waves. Point, these groundwater, it exists in the stratum for a long time. Point, gradually formed abundant groundwater resources, but this storage is not unlimited. Once the ground tension reaches its limit. Point, the groundwater will burst out and develop into a river, a steady stream, nourish all things. Achievement of the island's unique ecosystem. Certainly. Point, if it erupts more violently. Point, flash floods all the way north. Point, went for a few days in a row. Point, through reconnaissance, Jiang Kui found. Point, the situation in the middle reaches of the river much better than downstream. The reason is the high terrain. Point, and the rock formations are densely distributed. Soaring tide. Point, it doesn't work at all against these boulders even without human intervention. Point, the hydrogeological state of the river, there won't be too much deviation. Point, as long as it's not an explosive torrent. Point, basically no problem. Point, but point, just to be on the safe side. Point, occasionally encounter fragile rock formations. Jiang Kui still didn't let it go. Point, take fire to heat the rock wall. Point, get your hammer and chisel out. Point, there are several shunt passages carved into it. Point, relieve water pressure in advance. Point, this method of burning the wall with fire is the secret technique of piercing the mouth of the treasure bottle obtained by Liebing, a water conservator in the Warring States period, for the governance of mountain streams and wild rivers. Very effective. One is to savor trouble of building embankments. Second, the rock is used as the embankment. Point, you can perfectly control the flow direction and speed of the river. Very convenient. Point, this day. Chapter 142. The wisdom of climbing from thousands of years ago. Lord Kui is going to climb up from here. Ancient times, the ancient mandrakes who lived on the cliffs from the body of the blue sheep. Point, be inspired. Point, learned a whole set of rock climbing techniques to conquer cliffs. They are natural climbers, can be without any tools, come and go freely on the rock wall. Point, knowledge and experience transferred from the system to yourself. Jiang Kui learned. Point, the key to the technique is the shoes under your feet. Point, the Gumandras found a special kind of tree in the virgin jungle. Point, its bark is very rough. Point, a sole made from the bark of this tree. Point, will be very strong and durable. Point, in contact with smooth rock surfaces it will make the friction force play to the extreme. Climbing shoes used by today's freelancers, just got inspiration from it. Point, but point, shoes are second. Point, the main thing is the wisdom of climbing. in this ancient skill. As the first human rock climber, the reason why the Gomandris dared to face the cliffs completely limited by the environment. They live in the mountains of the northern plateau. Forests are scarce. When encountering beasts or predators, the best escape route is, of course, the top of the mountain. As such, after a long period of technological evolution and development, they gradually mastered the secrets of freehand rock climbing. And over time, they are also used to this way of life. Live in a cliff or a cave from now on until today. Between the mountain walls of the plateau. Still have the murals they made. Even archaeologists can't figure it out. Ancient mandala. How the hell is the rock painting painted on a rock dozens of meters high? After thinking about it, Jiang Kui locked the wooden cart. Dropped the rucksack. With Big White. Together they went to the forest. Find the raw materials for making rock climbing soles. That is a poisonous tree. The scientific name is male tree. Chinese people like to call them birds do not sleep. It means that the bark is full of hard spikes. Not even a bird would build a nest on it. As the name, birds do not sleep. The pike tree has a wide distribution. Mostly rooted in mountain sparse forests. It is a very common evergreen 747 plant that grows in the tropics and subtropics. There are no excessive requirements for the growing environment. Common peg tree. Up to 30 meters there are hard spikes on the bark. Leaves alternate on long branches clustered on short branches, hard as paper. The secrets of ancient mandrake climbing. The bark and leaves of this tree are used. A rock climbing sandal similar to the pads under the blue sheep's feet has been imitated. Makes it no matter whether the rock wall is slippery or not, and the climbing environment is harsh. The spikes under the shoe are great for helping climbers climb high cliffs in a fraction of the time. Take a goal. Jiang Kui took Dabe into the woods. Look carefully around. Just for a while. In a dense bush. This ancient plant was discovered. This is the mountain. It's really not that hard to find pegwood trees here. Dabe, get out of the way. 35 Open the Big White. Jiang Kui pulled out a battle axe. Aiming at the trunk of an ale tree. He chopped down hard. Boom boom yang. Hand only slashed less than 3 times. It's almost there. Align the fracture. Jiang Kui is just a kick. When he goes up. Then only a squeak sound was heard. The tree trunk fell to the ground. Now. In the live room. When the audience and experts saw this scene, they could not help frowning. Put on an ignorant expression. Huh? What is Leo Kui doing? Yeah. Why don't you look for a way? Could it be that Lord Kui is going to camp on the spot? The CPU I just installed is estimated to be killed again. This tree looks so strange. Mama came here. I can't help but want to take it up. What kind of tree is this? Male trees are common. It can be seen all over China. Not some precious species. The director found the information picture of this tree on the internet for the first time. And uploaded it to the big screen. The pegwood tree. Professor Zhang, is there anything special about this tree? BJFH, look at the picture on the big screen. Zhang cakes and frowned. After a while he said, well, the male tree is a very common plant, and many people should have seen it. Pegwood trees have 2 characteristics that distinguish them from other trees. 1 is poisonous, and this species is a poisonous plant included in the China Plant Atlas database. The toxicity is super strong, and our laboratory once did such an experiment. 1000 milligrams of venom extracted from the nail tree was injected into the mice. In less than an hour, the injected mice showed decreased activity, drooping eyelids, limb weakness, loss of writing reflex, respiratory depression and other conditions, and died within 24 hours. Good guy. So it's still a highly poisonous plant? What does Lord Kui find it for? I don't know, but I think Lord Kui knows that this thing is poisonous. Poisonous. Immediately after, Zhang Kui thought for a while. Continue to explain to the audience. In addition to being toxic, a saponin can be isolated from the heartwood of the nailwood tree. This kind of thing is very effective in killing termites, and it can also be used to make soap. As for the other characteristics of this wood, such as rough bark, hardwood, straight wood, etc., it can be used to make building materials, furniture, and railway sleepers, roughly like this. Zhang Kui analyzed it. It is also detailed. But even so. The audience still hadn't guessed Jiang Kui's real purpose. Just keep watching the live stream. Here. Cut down the trunk. Jiang Kui retracted the axe. One holds the loot on his shoulders, then he strode back to the bottom of the waterfall. After arriving at the place, he took out the knife for the first time. Start working on the bark of the pegwood tree. Same as Kira. As long as you don't touch the juice inside. There will be no problem. Second point for humans. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143. The Masters of Freehand Rock Climbing are all taken. This man is simply a strong blue sheep. The rock face that Jiang Kui is facing. If you use a professional point of view to classify its difficulty, at least it is also a B1 rock wall of level 5 difficulty. About the grading of climbing walls, it is the difficulty level formulated by the Sierra Club in the early years to more easily describe the difficulty of climbers' climbing routes. The lowest level, top 5, level 1 difficulty mostly refers to gentle slopes. Even without hands can also maintain balance for climbing. Level 2 is the occasional hand point, but even for beginners there is also no need to use the protection of the rope. Level 3 begins, difficulty increases sharply. Because there is danger after falling. Hands are often used when climbing. Best to use a rope. As for level 4, it requires certain climbing skills, because in the event of a fall there is a danger to life. So the rope is necessary, but compared to level 5. Rocks on tier 4 walls are easy to find. But at level 5 it's different. There are few rock points, and the steepness has long been incomparable. Protective measures must be taken to prevent serious consequences from falling. It can be seen from this conqueror level 5 rock face with your bare hands how hard it is, even in a civilized society. There are only a handful of people who dare to challenge with bare hands, because it's too steep. Right now, the cliff where Jiang Kui is, if only on the steepness level 5, is almost full. But speak up. But it doesn't stop there, because strictly speaking, the climbing environment of this rock wall is definitely not as good as the general 5 level rock wall. Climb all the way. He didn't just have to face the test of the cliffs, also have to figure out how to fight the falling waterfall. So it must not be viewed according to the inherent classification. Now, in the live room, seeing that Jiang Kui's right foot has found the move. When supporting the body continuously upwards, the already boiling barrage. The storm is back. Everyone is watching this hand-to-hand combat between man and nature with bated breath. F***K. My palms are sweating. Climbing with bare hands? Isn't he afraid at all? People fly in the sky. Souls chase in the ground series. Kuie. Be careful. I dare not read it. This guy's really crazy. Even a professional rock climber like me is terrified. Eagle Source audience. My god. What a lot of courage. Even professional rock climbers dare not play like this? They don't even have magnesium powder. If one doesn't have a firm grip, wouldn't it be cool? White bear audience. I feel that Chinese talents are a fighting nation, which is too awesome. East Win audience. I kneel down for you. Please come down quickly. This moment. Hundreds of millions of viewers around the world are hanging in their throats. Even professional rock climbers watched. Can't help but be amazed to know. Even true free solo, it also requires professional climbing shoes and climbing equipment such as magnesium powder to prevent hand sweat from slipping. So-called unprotected. Just referring to no rope protection. See Jiang Kui again. Facing the rock wall. Alone. Except the limbs and the courage to challenge. Not even a pair of professional climbing shoes. Absolutely wheel barehanded. Such and such. How can you not make people crazy? Actually. They don't know. Chapter 144. Climbing to the top. Another lost secret technique. An encyclopedia of original technology for walking. Even a freehand rock climber, when seeing this scene, it was also involuntarily shocked by the tiger's body. Not to mention the ordinary audience in the live broadcast room. Now. Under the interpretation of ultra high definition nano camera, Every climbing move by Jiang Kui is very visually striking. The scene will never lose the Hollywood blockbuster. Above his head is the sky point, below is a cliff point, there is a rushing waterfall on the side. Exploding muscles, water splashes on the face. Everything point clear and distinct. It seems to herald the next extraordinary. Next second point, the director is very funny to zoom out the camera. Huge visual gap point appeared suddenly. It caused exclamations in the barrage. My goodness. RRRRRR. It's too scary. Master KUI is a real bullshit. I'm leaning in. I can see that my part is already tense. Too fierce. He is a ruthless person. Eagle Source audience. Got. I'm about to suffocate 747 white bear audience. Unheard of rock climbing techniques. Adrenaline soaring. Dangying audience. Sugoi sugoi. This is simply a wonderful rock climbing performance. With increasing height point, the big white behind point, stop looking around point, the front paws are firmly on Jiang Kui's shoulders. Don't dare to move at all. As a beast from the jungle point, the wildness inherent in his blood. At this moment, it also seems to be completely disintegrated point. Look point, it should be the same with the audience point, shocked by this man's every move. The frightened expression on his face was like saying, "Where are you asking me to go?" In the blink of an eye, Jiang Kui climbed up more than 2 meters point. At this time point, look up point, you can already see the top of the cliff point. See point, he breathed a sigh of relief point, decided to adjust this move your lower joints. Prepare for the final summit push point thinking. Jiang Kui bowed point, use only your right index finger to hold a gap point, hold your body, and the other hand pointed is leisurely hanging on the side of the body. Look calm point, take it easy. Boom. See here point, the whole barrage seems to have detonated a blockbuster bomb. Blast again. F asterisk asterisk K. F asterisk CK. One finger. I'm going. Leo Kui's fingers are too strong. Please stop showing off. Scalp tingling exclamation point exclamation point exclamation point exclamation point. 6666. One finger support. Dare to play and dare not watch the series. Palms are sweating madly on the rock wall. Jiang Kui's left and right feet have corresponding pivot points. They stepped on 2 more reliable ravines, but because of the front point there is only one move that can be hooked with one finger, so only by this method point take turns, giving your fingers a good rest. Immediately after a minute point, he raised his left hand again point, fasten the seam, let the right hand hang down point, the front and rear hang here for more than 5 minutes, just keep going. See the scene in front of you point. Alex in front of the screen was shocked again. Call it incredible. This guy, support your body with only one finger, just finished the adjustment before the summit. OMG, this is definitely a one of a kind master. Terrible. The climb continues. At the same time. Chapter 145. Welfare for claustrophobia. Dabe's vigilance. Far away point, 5 peaks, the vegetation is dense point, the mountains are green point, it's like a secret place with hidden treasures in a movie point, revealing an unspeakable mystery. According to the trend of the river point, be judged point, not surprisingly point, the source of fresh water on the island point, it must have flowed from this mountain. Call. Looking at the Wazhi mountain near Shishi, Jiang Kui took a breath point, take off your homemade pegwood climbing shoes, put on sandals that are more suitable for hiking point, pack your backpack point, greeted loudly point, keep pushing forward along the river. One man and one wolf point, walk alone point, wherever the eye can see point. The scenery on the mountain is not much different from the scenery below point, the only difference is that the environment is quiet, no shelter from tall trees, irritatingly hot and humid point, all swept away. The banks of the swift river, although there are bushes, but relatively low point, a breeze blows very cool point along the way point, upstream conditions 19 surprises, sediment content in river water point, very few point. Second point, because the crossing is all mountains and rocks, the riverbed is also very stable point, much better than I expected point. The reason why downstream is so tragic point, it is entirely caused by the terrain difference point, just find the source point, make sure the water level rises, it is not caused by the collapse of surface pressure. etc. Point usually point the possibility of flash flood shouldn't be very big point. If not necessary point the water saving devices in the middle and upper reaches can be completely omitted point on weekdays just take care of the river it can be done once and for all point after 1,000 hardships for Jiang Kui point this is also good news. Soon point with Dabe walked forward for a while point the channel suddenly began to widen point the water flow is getting faster and faster immediately. After when the two went around a turning point in the river the foot of the mountain came into view point the center of the line of sight point there seems to be a dark cave hidden at the foot of the mountain, but due to the distance point stand in the moment point look up point can't see why point all you can see is the constant stream of water flowing out of it from the perspective of the arrangement of the peaks the location of the cave should be the main peak of Wazhi mountain point there are many vines hanging down from the entrance of the cave point reveals ancient secrets I don't know what's hidden inside. Dabe, keep up. 35 say hello to Dabe. Jiang Kui jumped over several rocks one after another head towards the hole point trot all the way over it didn't take long point came near the mouth of the cave was chillingly cold point thick vines hang down irregularly point there are no fingers inside point except for the sound of rushing water at a glance point can't see anything point. But point the space is huge point the vertical height is 5 or 6 meters. F***K. Too scary. Claustrophobic benefits. What a big cave. It's really spectacular. It is indeed the magic work of nature. It's the middle of the night. There won't be ghosts in there, right? Stand close for a while. Jiang Kui made up his mind and decided to go in and find out point. But point it's really dark inside point gotta be a handy lighting tool first. Like torches for caving in the wild point the benefits of torches are many point more than just lighting point it can also help monitor air quality point especially under shade primitive caves like this one point carbon oxide is relatively dense. Chapter 146. Damn. This guy looks like my roommate. In the live room, when the scene just now broke into the picture point dense barrage point it exploded in an instant. F***K. Human face. What's the situation? Almost scared to pee. Did you see it just now? I see. It's a human. Or a ghost. Eagle source audience. Got. Am I confused? Was that a human face just now? East Win audience. Is there someone in this cave? No. This is too exciting. Korean audience. What? There are people in there. Do you want to be so crazy? Next second, just when hundreds of millions of viewers disagree, haven't waited for Jiang Kui to respond, the strange face flashed before the camera point soon disappeared into the dark. It is fast. In a blink point it disappeared without a trace. All that was left was a shrill cry point echoing in the dark cave. At the beginning, Jiang Kui thought he was dazzled point possibly long-term solitude point caused my hallucinations, but the cry left behind after the strange face disappeared point, but enough to prove everything point the scene just now point don't be fooled by yourself. What an illusion. Although the light inside the cave is very dim point, but Jiang Kui dared to be sure point you shouldn't be wrong. It was indeed a human face point incomparable to yourself point even exactly the same. The facial features are clear creepy like looking in a mirror. Fear is always relative point meet like-minded people point not terrible point in a civilized society point it's not really scary at all point available at the end point on this isolated island deep in the ocean that suddenly appeared in the dark point familiar primate faces, but it is the most hair-raising existence. This kind of horror is exactly the same as the world is left with only you. But there is a sound outside your house. There is no difference. Is there a human settlement in this cave? All the time point. Except myself point is there anything else like this on the island? In theory point there is such a possibility. The size of the earth is amazing point there are many uncivilized primitive tribes in the world point they all like to live in dens such as the Indian cave in the southern hinterland of Eagle Source point another example is China's Zhangdangmao village. If not found point Zhangdangmao village may have been isolated from the world until now. Even today point there are still 18 families in Zhangdangmao village point more than 90 Mao people live in it point then point their ancestors were to escape the war in the water or near a point. So the family moved to live in a cave point long time point naturally get used to it point. So I just settled in the cave. The island where he is although isolated point, but there appears to be a burrow of tribes. It's really not that unusual point. It's not impossible. Of course point. Besides there is another possibility point, that is, that the thing just now is not human at all point. But if not people point, what will it be? Think about it point. The question mark in my heart is getting bigger and bigger. Feel the piercing chill that pervades the darkness. Chapter 147. Assi. The earth is originally China. I cried. There is a beast. Its shape is like a U and its ears are white, and it is walking on a pedestrian. Its name is Huan. This is the description of the beast's madness in the classic of mountains and seas, and this strange-faced ape in front of him point almost exactly as described in the legend, especially the pair of white ears, simply the same. It's so similar. Huan was previously considered to be a strange beast in ancient Chinese myths and legends, recorded in the Shanhaijing point shaped like a monkey point. Legends can know the events of the past point, but there is no way of knowing what will happen in the future point. Mortals can eat their flesh to strengthen their health point. It seems to be more effective than Elder Tang's meat point. I don't know if it's true or not point. The alien beast is a bit like a beast of a long-haired ape point, has a pair of white ears, can prostrate point, can also walk upright point. Because the Chuan and the orangutan have the same pronunciation point plus the two look alike point, so point many contemporary scholars believe that point the hunchback recorded in the classic of mountains and seas, most likely it is the current gorilla, but now it seems this inference should be flawed point. Not surprisingly point the guy in front of him point, it seems to be the deity of the scorpion. It surprised me that point in this kind of place point. How could you meet this guy? Magic shocked 753 Jiang Kui discovered through observation point the white-eared marmoset point. It is also very similar to a New World monkey blackdown that lives in the forest in the southeast of Baxi today. Blackdown is among all marmosets the most southern species. Quantities are extremely rare point, nearly extinct point, often live in coastal forests at an altitude of 500 meters. Daytime activities and habitats are in trees or in caves, pose no threat to humans. It is an omnivorous velvet animal point. The guy in front of him point, it's really similar to Blackdown point, but the two are different point. The biggest difference is the pair of white ears and the facial features that are very similar to humans. Do you say this is it actually a close relative of the black-feathered marmoset, or is it a new species that thrives from it? The latitude of the island is actually very similar to that of South America point. The climate is also almost indistinguishable point. It is believed to be a close relative of the black-feather marmoset point. Nor is it an unfounded guess when Jiang Kui discovered something point inside the studio, learned the real body of the strange-faced animal point. The experts in the ranks also surprised. A bold idea popped into my mind at the same time. Could it be that the strange beasts described in the classic of mountains and seas really exist? This man-faced ape discovered by Jiang Kui point, in fact, it is the alien beast that has been mistaken for an orangutan for a long time. If so point, this is a great discovery. Looking at the big screen point, Zalping stood up point, pointing at the big screen. He said with great excitement, "This guy really looks like the alien beast described in the classic of mountains and seas." It seems that our perceptions have been wrong all the time. The strange beasts recorded in the classic of mountains and seas are not nonsense. At least a large part of them have existed independently. There is a beast. Its shape is like a scorpion with white ears, and it walks on pedestrians. Its name is. That's right. This is a rumored alien beast. My god. This is definitely a major discovery that can overturn the existing pattern of biological history, and even the history of human development. 99 Professor Zhao is right point. This discovery point, it's not as simple as discovering a new species. Why are the exotic beasts in the classic of mountains and seas found on the other side of the earth that lives thousands of miles away? Is it a coincidence, or is there another reason? Just this question point enough for these experts to study for a lifetime. Almost covers many areas of existing science today point: Earth geography, human evolution, species homology and more. F***K. Cow approved. The legend in Shanhaijing is really true. The ancestors are too good. How did they learn about this? Brothers, I have a bold idea. Could it be that the origin of human beings is not the Philippines, but China? Appeared. Civil scientist, Adhama, Laotai, come and see. You are on TV. This monkey really looks like you. Chapter 148. The Colosseum of Centaurs. Van Gogh called him an expert when he saw it. Civilization, humanity, islands. Many islands in the South Pacific. There are indeed many civilizations, Ming and primitive tribes, such as the Micronesians in the West. Polynesians of Easter Island, Southern Melanesians, even Maori, but due to the opening of new routes the barbaric civilized visitors disturbed their lives so far some tribal peoples just started to disappear. Looking at the ruins in front of him, Jiang Kui has mixed feelings, excited and excited, because no matter where the civilization that once existed on the island came from, for him this is the most significant discovery since landing on the island. If civilization existed on the island, those primitive people there will definitely be traces left. Through these clues you can find better survival materials and energy materials by yourself, and Zin was able to be a civilized receiver to completely change everything that exists. Coal mine, iron ore, oil, anything is possible. In the live room the scene in front of you the audience also saw it clearly. At the moment, the boiling barrage whispering again. F***K. Lord Kui discovered ancient ruins. It turns out that civilization has developed on this island. My god. Isn't Master Kui more developed now? Let's see if Leo Kui can grasp it. If you can find some materials, then the cattle batch will be distributed. Master Kui is about to change from the island owner to the king. By the way, what kind of relic of civilization is this? Could it be the masterpiece of aliens? Alien, think all you will. Step into the cave slowly. Jiang Kui raised his eyes and looked around. Look around. With insight. The entire ruins are in ruins. It's long gone. Broken relief column. Fall down. Crooked. The circular arcade next to the artificial river after thousands of years of weathering and river erosion. Very few are left. Full of vines. This one is hidden in a cave. A monumental building with a huge dome and circular arcades, very Colosseum style. Even in decline. It can also make up for its former glory through many details. What is the specific purpose of the building? It is not possible to make accurate inferences based on this information alone. But what is certain is that this once island civilization was very developed. It is completely comparable to the ancient civilizations that are now known. In order to test this idea, Jiang Kui walked to the cave wall. Reach out and carefully feel the architectural details of the cave wall. Unsurprisingly, it is very obvious on the rock wall. Knife cut and axe chiseled marks. If you guess correctly, these remnants of architectural traces, it is definitely left by high-end cutting tools such as ironware. If you use ordinary copper cutlery when chiseling in hard carbonate rock formations, this is simply not the case. There should be a shell-like fracture instead of the current fragmented and fractured distribution. It surprised me that a lonely island deep in the ocean. How could such a glorious primitive civilization ever be born? This discovery. Jiang Kui was overjoyed. Because it means you must be able to find iron ore veins on the island. And in fact. The next scene of his discovery. It just confirmed his idea. In the rubble at the foot, Jiang Kui stumbled upon an iron chisel that was rusted beyond recognition. That's right. Iron indeed. There is a harvest. Jiang Kui threw the chisel aside. Stand up. Keep expanding your search. Soon. Remains and artificial channels along the arcades. Walked around the Colosseum. Chapter 149. Trample their bones. War is eternal. Lord Kui played it. Kui be careful. F***K. What movement? There seems to be something coming from that cave. F***CK. Scared people to death. The primitive people are here. Lord Kui, run, you said. Could it be the monster on the fresco? You crow mouth. Hope not. The Colosseum extends in all directions. There are arcades in the north, south, east, and west. Huge dome. It is like a natural amplifier when the trampling sound approached. It's like a herd of beasts crossing the border, deafening. Although I didn't see the real body. But just listen to this movement. Jiang Kui knew that a bloody battle was inevitable. Bring it on, thought here. His eyes are cold. The left wrist wiped the corner of his mouth. At the same time, the right hand grips the battle axe tightly. Get ready to see what a ferocious presence the visitor is. Dare to take such a big breath of 780s. Next second, as the trampling grows louder in the dark cave on the left, a strong shadow suddenly came out of it. Pounce on Jiang Kui. Due to early preparation. The moment the shadow came, he rolled straight and neatly. This meeting ceremony was easily avoided. Immediately after, when you get up again, through the shreds of sunlight, Jiang Kui finally saw the real body of the visitor, in the dark, directly in front of the line of sight. At this moment, there is a very strange looking beast standing there. Huge. Comparable to the lion wild boar. Visual weight. At least around 400 kilograms. Shaped like wildebeest. Again like a wildebeest. It has the head of a cow, the face of a horse, and the whiskers of a sheep. Big head and broad shoulders, much like bison. But the body is extremely slender and strong. Looks more like a horse. The neck has a long black and grey mane. There was long hair all over his body. Smooth and with short markings, from blue grey to dark brown. Black face. Fierce look. Thick front hooves, sometimes touching the ground. Sometimes it draws circles in the air. Fist-sized nostrils breathe out like a clockwork sieve steam engine. It seems to have accumulated endless power. Nowhere to vent. In general, boom. See this scene. A large number of barrages appeared in the live broadcast room again. F***ck. What is this? F***k. The cow head and horse face are for different. No, sir. Kui. Be careful. Don't panic. Lord Kui. Press A to ride. Seeking popular science. What animal is this? There are no centaurs, right? No. This goes against the theory of evolution. Facing a rare beast that suddenly appeared. The audience is getting darker and darker. Even began to doubt life. Many people can't help but ask questions on the barrage. Could it be that the centaurs in the myth of Sheila are real? At the same time, inside the global studio, look at the first-hand information returned from the scene. Several experts are also stunned. Chapter 150. Fighting beasts. Stop and kill. Audience, I will die with this punch. The origin of the wildebeest on the island. If it is as Jiang Kui reasoned. It makes perfect sense logically, because wildebeest is very adaptable to the living environment. Even if it is far away. Nor will it be acclimatized. They are fully capitalized. It thrives well here. But as for these natives on the island. Why bred this hybrid variety? Jiang Kui is unknown, but the information given from the frescoes the Colosseum. Seems like it was built just for these wildebeests. Do not do well. The so-called men and horses in the frescoes. In fact, it is the imagination of the natives' fierce centaur prototype. But it's these 4 different kinds of bastards imported from outside. Interesting. Could it be that this group of civilized barbarians is also with the ancient Romans, like fighting beasts, or gain strength from a beast, or use them for witchcraft? About these dusty histories, Jiang Kui is still unable to penetrate. Because there is so little information. These primitive natives. What is the ultimate purpose of the beast? Nothing is known yet. But one thing is for sure. All of these 19 are not groundless. There must be some hidden secrets. While thinking. Opposite wildebeest. Acting extremely angry, constantly blowing gas out of nostrils every spray. Dust on the ground. Spread it around. I can tell. This guy also seems to be the same as Jiang Kui. I don't want to see any invaders on the ruins where my ancestors fought, in order to protect the territory of their ancestors, even at the cost of giving up everything. Wildebeest temperaments generally change with the seasons. Usually. There is almost no territorial awareness. There are also many natural enemies. On the grasslands of South Africa. People at the bottom of the food chain. Every day is not to avoid the pursuit of lions and tigers. Just run away in a large area. It was a miserable time. But this miscellaneous glue comes from the species. What a habit. It is unknown. But see what it looks like. Seems to have some fighting power. If not, I don't know the details of Jiang Kui. It might be coming soon. F***k. This guy is so fierce. Tell me, was this primitive ruin built just for these guys? Agree. In the mural just now, the whole process of their beast fighting is described. Good guy. Fighting beasts. Is it so fierce? Kui, be careful, don't worry. Ki wild area is basically invincible. Next second, while the audience is talking, Jiang Kui narrowed his eyes, the fierceness in his eyes like a god of war, brave, overbearing, invincible. Stare at this behemoth in front of you. Even if it is the descendant of the fierce fighting beast. When seeing these eyes, fierce aura. Couldn't help but lose 3 points. Eager 4 foot. No longer lift. Stand upright in front of you. Turn offense to defense. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.